I'm thankful that I didn't know as a little boy that there were no black software engineers, right? I mean, there were some, right? I hadn't met any, right? But I still believed that that was something I could become. And so professionally, I became a successful software engineer again for 19 years. Most of the work environments where I worked, I was the only black software engineer. And so there was that challenge of people assuming, making assumptions about what I was capable of doing, right? Now,
Hey there, I'm back with another episode of So Success Stories. And today I have a special privilege of talking to one of my newer friends, Meka Egwuekwe. I
very
said it.
good. Absolutely. That was near perfect.
Yay, I'm so excited. So excited. So, Meka is a friend of mine, and I've met him on this journey since I've been here in Memphis. And I honestly can't remember where we met, but he's one of those people that I feel like I've known him forever.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited and honored to be sharing his story today. So, Meka is the CEO and co-founder of CodeCrew, and it's so exciting the things that they've done. And I've watched your journey, and how CodeCrew has evolved and grown and impacted so many young people's lives. And I can't wait for you to share a little bit more about CodeCrew. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you, Summer. I'm honored to be here, and just glad we are able to have this moment, and I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about myself. And so I'm a kid born in Chicago but raised in South Memphis, Castaic to be specific. And was blessed with a mother, grandmother, and great grandmother who raised me in that little house, raised my brother and I. Um, my mom, born and raised in Memphis, grandmother and great grandmother, like I said, right there in the house. My great grandmother especially was my first babysitter. She was born in 1900 and imparted a lot of knowledge to my brother and I. I'm very thankful for her. Despite her third grade education, gave me some of the most important lessons, life lessons that I carry forward to this day. My grandmother brought my brother and I kicking and screaming to church. uh, and my mother was one who very much valued education. She was the first one to get a college degree. She got her degree from Lemoyne College in the natural sciences. All the things I understand and appreciate in terms of the math and science start with her playing these little math and science games with my brother and I at home. And so I fast forward to going to school. I started at East High School in Memphis, and I chose that school because I learned they had more computers than any other school in the city. My mother, when I was 10, had given me a Texas Instruments home computer that changed my life for Christmas that year, 1983. I should say 19. and by the time I was in junior high school, I knew I wanted to study computers, and so that was I went to East High School. There, I watched a video presentation about this fancy boarding school in Massachusetts that convinced me to apply. My brother and I both applied. Ended up going to Phillips Academy Andover for high school, and that's where we both finished. And then I went on to Morehouse and studied computer science there and got a bachelor's in computer science. And then went on to Duke and got a master's in computer science before spending 19 years as a software engineer. Fast forward after that 19 years, myself and Petya Grady and Audrey Willis, we founded CodeCrew, and then I found myself quitting my job and becoming full-time executive director at that time, and now CEO at CodeCrew. So that is, but a lot of this passion for computing started with my mother and that Texas Instruments home computer. That I learned how to make my unusual name move across the screen, and that computer was plugged to the TV, and that's why I was like, okay, look, Mom, my name is on TV, because you will never see Meka Egwuekwe on TV. You will never see my name on TV. You might see a name like Summer. You might see a name like my wife's, which is Pamela on television, but you wouldn't see Meka. And so all along that path, I was blessed with an internship, first with NASA and then with HP. HP took me to California, where I met my wife Pamela. She put something in my food, and I woke up married. Uh, and now
That's
now
how
20. 27 years now we've been married, and we got two beautiful daughters. My younger daughter, Sabina, is a senior at Hampton University right now, studying English and film, applying to film schools. And my older daughter, LHE, graduated from Xavier University, is in med school and doing her rotations at Baptist Hospital here in Memphis. And so that is my life story. I will say that, I'll just add that my father was not a part of my life growing up. But when I finally met him, I learned I had five sisters, and so I've developed a great relationship with those five sisters as well that I've been blessed with. So
Wow. That was a lot. It was a
there's a
lot
lot.
to
There's a
finish
lot. I
up.
squeezed it all in.
Right, and so much I didn't know already. Okay, you are amazing. That is amazing, and I appreciate
You're very
thing
kind.
I
You're very
really
kind.
appreciate about you is your humility and your humbleness. Like I never would have known all of those great things about you. You just seem like a cool dude. And you are,
Well,
and
thank
you
you.
absolutely are. But what an amazing background, and that really sets us up for answering these questions. And so in this program, I have what I call the SOA success system. And it's my belief that anyone, absolutely anyone, can be successful if they can learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices. They can have
Mhm.
what I call SOA success. And that's success no matter what happens in life, what your circumstances might be. And you're obviously a SOA success man. So the first part
Thank
of the
you.
SOA success system is overcoming obstacles. Talk about some of the obstacles you had to overcome to get to where you are today.
Sure, sure. So when I think on a personal level, I mean, one of those obstacles is not having my father in my home, right? My father, I'm a junior, so my full name was Meka Egwuekwe Jr. So here I was raised in South Memphis. My father's from Nigeria. My parents separated well before I can even remember, and eventually divorced. And not, having this unusual name and knowing I have this tie to Nigeria, but not having my father in my life was a significant obstacle because a lot of the things I had to learn about manhood I had to learn from outside the home, right? So it was young guys in the street who themselves didn't know about manhood, right? In Castella, if you know that neighborhood, right? That that's not exactly your model for manhood. But I was blessed again. My grandmother brought my brother and I kicking and screaming to church. I say all the time because I did see models of manhood and fatherhood there that I learned to emulate. And so, but I certainly learned some things about what it means to be a man, maybe later than a young man should. That's I would describe that as a personal obstacle, right? Couple that with the fact that we were coming up in Castilla, and Castilla is not exactly a rich part of town, right? And so that had its own challenges too. But I will say that I was, just blessed with a family rooted in ensuring that my brother and I valued education, valued valued manners and respect for other people, and thankfully, blessedly, we managed to stay out of trouble. And I'll say professionally, I'm thankful that I didn't know as a little boy that there were no black software engineers, right? I mean, there were some, right? I hadn't met any, right? But I still believe that that was something I could become. And so professionally, I became a successful software engineer again for 19 years. Most of the work environments where I worked, I was the only Black software engineer. And so there was that challenge of people assuming, making assumptions about what I was capable of doing, right? Now, I did whip out that Duke master's degree, and that would shut some people up, right? They loved and respected Duke, even though I got a much more solid foundational education out of Morehouse. And Morehouse is who I credit with my success in my career, right? When I got to where I became, at senior levels as a software developer, largely because not only was I comfortable with technology, to build any and everything that was put before me that I needed to build. But Morehouse, taught me about how to convey and communicate technical, complex ideas in ways that customers and other stakeholders could understand well. Much better than had I gone to Georgia Tech or MIT, both of which are schools I was accepted into. But but I don't believe I would have gotten that uh, appreciation for effective communication that I got out of Morehouse had I gone to one of those other schools. And but that kind of being the only Black software developer and the kinds of racist assumptions that are made in the workplace, as well as not having the support that is kind of baked in if you're a white and Asian male. I didn't have that kind of support, but I still managed to eke out a successful career in that space. And so I know we're going to talk about excuses, for example, right?
Yeah, yeah. Let me
And
before you even go there, let me ask you this. So I want to go back to both of those points real quick. So can
sure,
you talk about a little bit? Because I can imagine I've even been the only Black person or the only woman in some of my career, some of the jobs in my career. Talk about how you did deal with that, being the only Black man and some of those racist assumptions. Talk about that. I know you whipped out that Duke Masters. That was one. Talk a little bit more about that.
sure. So you know, the assumptions that are made, especially when I first started working, that you're not capable, right? That you know that you're not necessarily going to have good ideas. The good thing is that not everyone in the workplace is like that, right? So you quickly figure out, well, who are the ones who just don't believe that Black people should even be here, right? Who are the ones that are sympathetic to uh, the challenges that you're having as the only Black person, right? Who are the ones that just are just flat out, what can you do, right? We're working together to make this company money, right? And so they get it, right? That what do you bring to the table, right? And so and who are the ones who are like who just want to get into a contest with you, want to challenge you all the time, right? I run into those too, right? And so it is showing up and just recognizing that I bring value to this company, whatever company I'm at the moment, and that in the end, am I showing this company value by bringing in more money than I cost, right? And so I'll never forget. It was a company I worked for in Atlanta that at one point there were layoffs, and we started. 9 o'clock that morning. We were 41 employees. By 11 o'clock, we were 25 employees.
Mm.
I was not laid off. One of the reasons is because I decided, there was a tough part of our product that no one wanted to deal with, right? No one wanted to do the grunt work to make this thing better. And so I volunteered to do it. I said, I'll do it. And I took the performance of this from this tool that took about 30 seconds to run down to 1 second. And well, it turns out when it came time to do the layoffs, I was the only one who knew how it worked. Right. And so
Job security. You
yeah. And so they were like, well, we can't let you go. First of all, I was doing my part. I was making sure I was not costing more than what I was contributing to bring in. But then I had that job security of being the subject matter expert on this key part of the company's business. And so make yourself indispensable. That was my motto there, to also combat the challenges of racism in the workplace. And I don't want to paint a doom and gloom when it comes to the workplace and those kinds of challenges, right? It is, but you just have a mix of people, and so you're going to deal with these kinds of issues in ways that white and Asian males are not necessarily going to deal with, because it's assumed that that they have what it takes to do this already,
right.
right? It's evidenced by their presence, even though some of them have far less educations than me. I worked with one who only had a high school diploma and was making more money than me, for example, and I had a master's degree. Uh,
Yeah.
so those are the kinds of things. But I focused on, again, how am I making myself valuable?
It did pause. I'm not sure why it paused. Um, okay, so I was just saying I really want to go back just a little bit too because you said something else that was huge to me. So racism in the workplace is something that is definitely common, unfortunately, but it's common. But before some people can even get into the workplace, they deal with that first challenge that you said, and that's growing up especially as a Black man in a household without a father.
Mhm.
And then you talked about being blessed to have your grandmother, grandmother, great grandmother. And I love, me and how I love the mother, the grandmother, and that.
Yeah.
But I also know the challenge of a man not being there. I love how you said that you embraced the church and the men in the church. Talk about what made you embrace them, because the thing is, I working with young people, being a single mom to a son myself, so many men try to step in, and so many women putting their young men in front of good male role models, but sometimes not being received. But what looks like what saved you was that you were open and you were receptive and you picked up on the positive male role models in your life. I would love for you to share what made you do that and the importance of doing that for a young man, especially that might be watching this, that doesn't have his father in his life.
Well, here's the thing about being young. You know, the nature of being young is that you don't know anything really, right? You're learning, based on what you're exposed to, right? And so I will not at all pretend like I had sense enough to recognize that as a young kid that I needed to have male role models. I did recognize as a kid there was a certain pain to my father being missing, right? That I did understand, children understand early that a mom and a dad is is at least an ideal uh, form of a family, right? There's successful families who don't have both parents, right? I came from a successful family who didn't have both parents, but young kids, especially young boys, are dream about manhood, right? But what is going to be become a man? In fact, we challenge each other with respect to manhood as boys when none of us are men. Right? And so that's an important part of a boy's thinking, right? Is what becoming a man, right? And so I didn't necessarily have sense enough to know or look to these men as role models. They were just part of my life. And my grandmother, like I said, brought my brother and I to church even when we didn't want to go. And we were there, vacation Bible school and all kinds of different things. But the net positive of her doing that, it was that I was the better for it. Because when I did came to better understand manhood and appreciate what it means to be a man, I can look back to Brother Bush at church, right? Look back at just a lot of key individuals, Brother Dave, a lot of Brother Boone, Ronald Boone, who when my voice was changing, and I have a bass voice now, but as a little kid, obviously I didn't. And so when I was 12 and 13 years old, my voice was changing. Ronald Boone, uh, talked me through that, right? Uh, the awkwardness of trying to sing in the choir, and I couldn't keep a consistent voice. And so it's those little lessons about again about manhood, about fatherhood. Brother Bush was an active dad with his kids. I knew that I did not want my children to grow up without an active father, and I was inspired by him, and also inspired by the pain of having a missing father. Right, and so I didn't really appreciate all that until I was a grown man myself. But I was thankful that my pathway to manhood was sprinkled with these touch points that I got at church and a handful of individuals outside of church, but mostly because my grandmother brought my brother and I to church.
Love it, grandma. Love grandma.
Yeah, no,
I
my
love
grandmother
it.
was a very, very important person in my life. I'm a basketball fan because of her. She was making my brother and I clean up on Saturday morning, but we were watching Memphis State basketball while we were doing it. And so that, yeah, grandma. I mean, I'm a huge fan of multi-generational engagement, right? This is why my children know both sets of grandparents well. Despite my father being missing, now that I've come to know him, my children know my father well, as well as their aunts that came into my life. My sisters and I, my brother, the seven of us agreed that as we had kids, we were going to raise these children as if there wasn't a gap, such that they're close to their cousins. But that multi-generational approach is important. My children, my wife's grandmother lived to be 100 years old, and my children got to spend time with her. She lived in Shreveport, Louisiana. We made sure we made regular trips down there. And then as she got older, she came and stayed with us for a few months. And my children, my youngest daughter especially had the foresight at 17 to record more than 50 conversations with her great grandmother. Um, and so the valuing family, and especially across generations, is, yeah, anyone who knows me knows that's foundational, because that's
I love it.
who I am. It's because of that I am who I am.
I
And
love it.
so, yeah,
And
I'm preaching
so
now. I'm sorry. I'm
no,
carried away.
I'm passionate about that too. So I don't know how much you know about me, but like I wrote that book
Yeah.
about my grandmothers, and the ones behind her, ones I wrote with my grandmothers. And my grandmother lived to be 102 and almost 98. And so yeah, we could go on and on and on about that because I'm totally with you on it.
Yeah,
But
you are the embodiment of what we're talking about here in
thank
terms of
you.
multi-generational love and support, being the foundational and being the essence of who you are.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. And I just like you though, I give so much credit to my grandmothers and what they instilled in me, um, intentionally and unintentionally. So, and I try to do the same with my grandchildren. But we'll go to the second part of the SOA success system, which is eliminating excuses. And you were about to go there already. So talk about some of the excuses you knew you had to eliminate to get to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one is really, I mean, I could have easily made an excuse that, I didn't have a father in my life and I could have just gone down directions, right? I could have made an excuse, I'm the only Black person here, and, as a software engineer, but really, I had to eliminate this idea that someone else is responsible for my success. In the end, I'm responsible for my success, especially once you become an adult, right? As a child, there's a lot for you to learn and understand around excuses and responsibility and so forth. But when you become a man, when you become a woman, you are responsible for your success. Uh, uh, I had this great conversation with my younger daughter's got a young man that she's seeing, her boyfriend, and so I was just dropped her off at college, and he was kind enough, very respectful young man, helped me move her into her apartment, and so we sat down to eat, and had a great conversation with him about, you're about to graduate from Hampton University. That's one of our most well-resourced HBCUs. If you come out of the school not having a good education and not having a good network, there's no one to blame for that but you. Right? That's the reason why you go to go to college. It is to get a great education and have a great network, so that when you come out, it's about what you know and who you know. Those are foundations to being successful. And so you can be at this college and not get those things. And if you don't get those things, don't blame the college. It's not the
Yes.
college's fault. Not a well-resourced school like Hampton, right? Now, if you went to Bob's College of Knowledge, that's something completely different. Some that didn't have resources, some didn't have a good network. That's something completely different. But you at this school, you're at what they consider to be the Black Ivies, right? But even if you're not at a Black Ivy, even if you're not at a whatever, right? Um, in the end, the choices that you make, whether or not you choose to take advantage of opportunity that's in front of you, right? We all have a different constellation of opportunities. It's on you to decide, I'm going to make the most of this and get the best education possible where I am. I'm going to grow my network. I'm not just going to sit in my room. I'm going to meet people, because in the end, the relationships that you have with people are going to pay off for you later. I was past 30 before I really realized how powerful relationships are, how powerful your network is. And
Boy.
so yeah, so eliminating excuses about someone else being responsible for your success. You are
I think
responsible for your success.
That's powerful. Like no matter what your circumstances are, no matter what your situation is, you are. And I love that you said that. And I even like that you gave that example with colleges because I speak in colleges and universities and high schools all the time. And that's something that I've always said too is that it's up to you. Like, and really, even in my opinion, even if you go to Bob's College of Knowledge, you
That's
can
right.
make something amazing out of that. You
That's
absolutely
right.
can still make something amazing out of that. But you also went into choices. So that's the third part of the SOA success system is calculated choices. So talk about some of the calculated choices that you've made in your journey, on your journey.
Sure. And some of those choices were before I had sense enough to realize these were good choices, right? One of the most important choices as a young person was listening to my mother, grandmother, and great grandmother, right? My great grandmother told me, said, boy, she was babysitting my brother and I. We were 4 and 5 years old. Don't mess with no dope. I didn't know what dope was at 5, right? Really had no idea.
She started
But
early.
or watch the company that keeps the stories that she would tell us about people getting scooped up in these police raids and so forth, and the police would not ask any questions about who's there, so forth. You're going to be blamed like everybody else. Those kinds of lessons that her third grade education gave my brother and I. My brother and I chose to listen to those things. So those choices started early in terms of understanding, respecting the wisdom of elders. We should all make that choice at any age. Listen to the wisdom of elders. Uh, you know, um, and I didn't know that that would pay off for me. I just, that was one of the smartest choices I ever made, right?
Absolutely.
Um, my smart choice was, to not protest too much. My grandmother dragging us to church, right? So these are choices as a young person, right? But as an adult, right? Because as an adult, we have to make choices, right? And these choices have huge consequences. And so um, I made the choice I moved. I have a good opportunity to live around the country in different places. And I made the choice to, yeah, do that internship in Huntsville, Alabama. I had an opportunity to get, right? I could have not gone. I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to Alabama. The internship in California, right? Those things that I was blessed to get. Some people are so afraid of risk or so afraid of being so far away from home, you cut yourself off from your blessings. And I knew nobody in California, but I came back with a wife. So it paid
Ah!
off for me, right? Marrying my wife was one of the best choices I ever made. I dated some women before her, and but each one of and they definitely didn't work out, the vast majority of them, right? But each one of them taught me a little bit enough such that when I did meet my wife, I was smart enough to appreciate who she was, and so I'm thankful for that choice, right? Of when I found the right woman for me, I did the right thing, got down on one knee, did the Luther Vandross song and everything, and uh, and got me a wife, and we also were very thoughtful in the choice about starting a family. We weren't just haphazard about that, right? We made that choice for us, and my two daughters are two of the greatest blessings in my life. I have become a better person because of the lessons they taught me. And being a father and being an active dad is an important choice to make, right? Choosing to start CodeCrew is another, right? It is, blessed with a great career. But, my friend here in Memphis, Marlon Foster, runs a program called Knowledge Quest, said to me years ago, figure out a way to multiply yourself. And so how do I multiply the blessings that have been given me? I don't have a long list of talents, but technology is one of those. And so what gets me up every day is the young people that are landing 70,000, 80,000, 110,000 $110,000 jobs at 21 and 22 years old. And not to mention the younger ones who are deciding, yeah, I want to study computer science in college. Yeah, I want to be a mentor myself and lift as I climb. And which we've got lots of young people do that, start with us in middle school. Now they're in college. Now they're hired by us to be teaching assistants to help other young people. And so CodeCrew is one of the best choices I ever made too. And to do that, but myself, Audrey, and Petya, we launched it recognizing we're all coming from tech backgrounds. We didn't necessarily know about running a nonprofit, but we made the choice to launch that through the StartCo, one of the StartCo's accelerators. And so we learned a lot there about how to make a sustainable nonprofit with a revenue stream that's not just dependent on philanthropy. We need philanthropy, but we also earn revenue. Right? So many choices. Life is all about choices.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Life is all about choices. Some of them that you make in your youth, and some of them that you make in adulthood. But the earlier you make the wise choices, the greater that payoff for you is. Right? I'm glad I chose to refinance my house during COVID. I got a great interest rate on my house.
Choices, choices. You know
Choices.
what? So you're exactly right. And I think about that and how every day we have the opportunity to make new choices, good choices, bad
Mhm.
choices. And even when we make bad choices, we can recover from them with good choices, right? So I definitely appreciate you sharing all that. You definitely know how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices. You are definitely a so what success man. But what
Thank
is
you.
your personal definition of success? How would you personally define success?
Um, I I I define success by repeating something I heard during freshman orientation at college at Morehouse, which is that success is when opportunity meets preparation. And you don't control the opportunities. The opportunities are controlled by others, by other people, or by God Himself, right? But you do control your preparation, right? And so if you're when the opportunities come, if you're prepared to receive them, when they combine, that's when you get the energy that we call success. And so how then do I prepare for uh, opportunities even before I know what the opportunities come?
I
Well,
love
I-
it.
so it's like, well, valuing education pays off in terms of preparation. I think that's absolutely fundamental and foundational to every young person. Invest in your education, even if you don't get why it's important now, right? Listen to me when I tell you invest in your education, and not just a secular education. If whatever your faith is, your religious education. I'll say that me learning in church that Jesus said that the two great commandments are to love God with all our heart, soul, and mind, love thy neighbor as thyself. To hear that it's all about loving God, loving others, and loving self is foundational to my choices in life too. Right? And so when it comes to education, it's not just what you learn in book sense, right? It's your faith. It is common sense, getting the education from those who don't have these deep educations, but still have so much wisdom to offer you, right? And so that kind of preparation, prepare. Now that I'm past 50, I'm starting to appreciate better understand preparation in terms of keeping your body healthy, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
so stuff is not working like it used to, or stuff pops when I get up and stretch,
I'm
right?
telling you.
So being keeping your body prepared, but it's really your mind, your body, your soul prepared, and then those opportunities that come, and you help multiply those opportunities by growing your network, right? That's the way, you're not going to meet new people sitting at home. I mean, I guess you can do that with Zoom and the internet now, right? But really, these person-to-person connections are still so important.
That's
Meet
so
people, even
powerful.
if you're an introvert like me, and I'm an introvert. Sometimes I got a limited battery, but use what battery you got, meet people, and
I
set
love
yourself up. And my advice is really, great way to meet people is to volunteer for something.
Mhm.
Go out there and volunteer for an after school program, volunteer at a library, volunteer to be on a board for some nonprofit, um, because you get more out of it than you put in the end,
Absolutely.
because your network is expanded, right? And so those opportunities and preparation combined, boom,
I
success.
love it. So I'm gonna and look, I'm gonna say this real quick because I love that example and I like that the definition of success because I've used that too. And a
Hmm.
perfect example that I have for it, I always think back to it, is when I worked for the Memphis Grizzlies, I was working sometimes 80 hours a week. And I was a single mom. But I made that decision to get my MBA at that time. I already had a
Hmm.
BBA, but I was like, something is telling me I need to get more education. And so I got my MBA while I was working for the Memphis Grizzlies, working all that time. And I had my son. It says a single mom. People thought I was crazy. But when I was ready to leave the Grizzlies because I was working so much and I wanted to make more money, I started looking for jobs. I applied for several, and the job I got, or that I got an interview with, was with FedEx. By the time I got to
Hmm.
FedEx, I had no idea for the position that I was applying for, you had to have an MBA. And so I always
Ah,
think about, like, I was so grateful that I made that decision a few years earlier to get my MBA. I had no
yeah.
idea that that opportunity would be one that I would be pursuing. But so I love it. I definitely understand what you just said around that. So okay, one last question for you. This has been a great interview, and I think you have provided some very good information. The other thing I was going to say real quick, networking. People think I'm from Memphis because I know so many people here. And I'm not, just like
You're
you
not
know,
from Memphis.
I'm not, see?
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you were from Memphis too.
A lot of people
Wow.
think I do, and it's because I understand the value of what you just said, networking. And it started when I moved here in 1997 and
Hmm.
got involved as a student at the University of Memphis. I was involved in several different organizations, and that continued throughout my life and my journey, including volunteering, just like you said, signing up for or getting on boards, same thing. And I've grown the
Hmm.
network. So I just want to echo exactly what you're saying, how powerful that has been, even in my developing my career. Now I'm an entrepreneur and helping with all that. It's because of some of what I know, but more who I know,
Absolutely.
and who knows me and who knows my name. And so that is powerful what you said. One last question, we'll wrap up. This has been so good. What's one last piece of advice? Because you've given a lot, but what's one last piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to be successful, however they define it, but they run into obstacles, they have obstacles? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, and obstacles are real, but you know, and obstacles are unfair. And so, and different people get different sets of obstacles, and so some have an easier path, and some have a much more difficult path. But never believe that there's no path. All right,
Yeah.
that so you know there is a path for you, and it's rooted in, well, it's rooted in your faith, what you believe, right? So don't walk away from your faith. There's lots that faith has to offer, right? But it's also rooted in the what you know and the who you know. And so that again, that um, we all know someone. Everyone that's successful is successful not because of what they did on their own, but they're standing on the shoulders of others, right? So you want to remember that when you look at that, your role models for success, they didn't get there by themselves. The who you know was very foundational to that. So grow your who you know, right?
I
Um,
love
and not only that, remember that you have a responsibility also. That you may think that I mean, I know Charles Barkley famously said in that commercial years ago that I'm not a role model. I don't get paid to be a role model. That's a lie, right? You're either good role model, bad role model, but you're a role model. Someone's looking at you. So remember to lift as you climb, right? You know, you have a responsibility also to be shoulders for someone else, right? And and that's all about relationships. We're social beings. Human beings are social beings. Be plugged into a network. Despite your challenges, your network is going to help you get over those challenges. And if you're a man of faith like I am, you know, God is going to help you in those challenges, right? And so, but you know, I'm not here to evangelize. I am here to say that we all have a path, some more difficult than others, but be rooted in what success is, being prepared for opportunities when they come. You'll find your path to success, just like we all are blessed with pathways if we so choose to to pursue them. So,
to pursue them. Thank you so much, Meka. This has been amazing. I'm so
well,
glad we
thank
finally
you.
got the opportunity to talk, and your story is is so powerful. I thank you, and I'm grateful to know you, and I'll be seeing you around. Thanks again, friend.
Thank you as well. I'm certainly inspired by your story. So you keep on doing it. Keep telling and sharing platforms like this of sharing other people's stories too. So the power of stories is something I've definitely learned to appreciate, and your story is an inspiring one. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.